Priceless Convos. Today I have with me Miss Whitney Hall. She is a former journalist turned higher educator. Sorry about that. Proud Howard University grad and the funniest and fun aunts of ever. So hey Whitney, welcome to Priceless Convos. How is your day going? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have a conversation with you.
Yes, I'm glad that we connected because we connected through another it was another interview series that we
Yeah.
connected through, and I was like, okay, she's amazing. Based on our
Thank you.
conversation, so I was like, it
Felt
would
the
be
same about you.
thank you. So I was like, it would be so nice to talk further and really continue our conversation post that interview series. So um I'll let you introduce yourself before we jump on in. Tell me like where you're from, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Well, yeah, I think the easiest way to explain who I am is I am a storyteller at heart. And so I like to tell stories in every way that I can think about, from podcasting to working in higher education to being a journalist. I really feel like the reason I was put on earth was just to kind of collect stories and then to tell those stories. I'm from Alabama, born and raised, lived in DC for a little while when I went to Howard and had a fantastic time. Probably too much fun in college. It was purely social for me. And then I was like, oh, yeah, we take classes too. But yeah, so that's me. And I love being an aunt. I always have to talk about my babies. They have honestly changed my life and just kind of given me a why that I didn't know I was going to ever have. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, that's nice. That's so nice. How many nieces, nephews?
Five. My brother and sister in law have five kids. My sister and I are the fun, childless aunts. And so we spend all our money on them. That's all we do.
Sounds good. I'm sure your brother, your sister-in-law appreciate it. Almost
Yes, they
certain.
do.
So you mentioned that you are a journalist.
Yeah.
What type of media do you write? Yeah.
So I have done all sorts of journalism. I went to college for TV news. That's what my initial kind of foray into journalism was being a reporter. I had a beat, and I was the girl standing outside, rain, sleet, or shine, talking about random things on the side of the road. And then I've kind of gotten into more print journalism over the years, just out of sheer needing a job, needing kind of a place to kind of plug in. I graduated in the middle of the recession, so it was like get in where you fit in. And
Wow.
so I've done a lot of print journalism, probably more than TV. I've done print, but in my heart, I love video. I'm a video girl. I've always really loved video. And so I lean heavily towards kind of video storytelling.
That and so basically you got started in that from college.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just one of the like it was a skill that I had to get. They taught us kind of everything. We learned how to write, we learned how to capture our own audio, we learned video, and video just really, really spoke to me. I'm a very visual person. I'm also a photographer. So for me, video was just kind of like where I really found my niche,
Mhm.
because I like visual storytelling a lot. So I really kind of lean there. But if I have to write, I will. And I for work I do mostly writing. But if they ever say they need a video project, I'm like, ooh, pick me, pick me.
And I noticed that on your Instagram, you also mentioned that you are a musician as well.
Yeah. So I've been playing guitar. Well, I started off playing violin in the
Mhm.
fifth grade, and I played violin all the way to college. But guitar is my main instrument. My dad's a guitarist, so he taught me how to play the guitar. It was like our little bonding time when I got to middle school, and so I was known in my hometown, and then even when I got to Howard, as the girl walking around her guitar writing songs all the time. Like people were like, if they saw me without my guitar, they would be like, "Where's your guitar? Is it okay?" I'm like, you guys, I don't take it to the calf. Like I can just go eat without my guitar. But yeah, that's my like primary instrument. and I love it. I have been a songwriter since the first song I wrote was in the 4th grade on the playground with my friends about this boy that I liked, and so I've been writing songs ever since, playing my guitar. And I think it's funny. I always know where people know me from, whether
Mhm.
they know me as like a media journalist or if they know me as a singer and musician. It just depends on where you meet me, kind of how you're introduced to me.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I noticed in you explaining the different roles and things like that that you do is one that you're creative, right? Which is a blessing. um
Yeah.
it is a blessing. Have you felt like um you needed to like box yourself in or just stick to one thing? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I never really felt that pressure from myself initially. I always just saw myself as a person who, at my base level, I'm just creative. And I think creative people are able to dabble in creativity in a lot of ways. I also really like to paint. I like to draw. I like to write really bad poems. So it's like, I'm a creative person. That's just how I see myself. But I have definitely felt the pressure over the years. And I've even been told by people that you need to like hone in on one thing. You're gonna be all over the place. And I remember like a friend of mine one time like coming to have a real heart to heart with me and
Mhm.
being like, you need to decide who you're gonna be. And I just remember that hurting my feelings so much and just feeling like, well, gosh, I don't want to lean into just one thing. I
Mhm.
express myself about certain things depending on what the situation is. When I'm
Yeah.
really, really excited, I want to write songs. Like I write upbeat, happy, let's be excited things. When I'm
Mhm.
really hurt and sad, then I want to like journal or write my bad poetry. Um, Sometimes I want to film things when I'm trying to like really capture a memory. And so I'm like, I don't know how to stick to one thing because all of them matter so much to me
Mhm.
and I use them in different ways.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because I think um I feel like in these days that we're living in, there are individuals where we are blessed with more than one gifts.
Yes.
And it's a blessing, and I feel like perhaps the generations prior to millennials,
Mm.
they felt like, okay, I just have to stick to one thing, where
Yeah.
else millennials, don't even talk about Gen Z because we know they're a whole nother thing. Everyone is more kind of like you're doing that more than one thing, and it's not like, oh, you're doing it all. It's just that they
Yeah.
are special things that
Yeah.
you really are just good at.
And isn't it so cool that we live in a time where you really can kind of like do it all? I think we live in this really cool time where you can have a full-time job and then when you get off, you can go be like a social media like maven. And the people at your job don't even know that you have this like other life where you're a social media influencer or content creator. They just know you as, the girl who sits at her computer at her desk. And so I just think that's so cool that we have those options to do that.
Yeah, I think it was an article or something the other day, and it was a lady who she was a dentist.
Mm.
She closed her practice down to become a full time YouTuber.
Wow.
Um, and her YouTube channel was about cooking. So it was,
Mm.
and it was like, okay, so she was good at one thing. So I'm like, she could have kept both, just keep the practice, but don't practice with tired folks, you know? But I like the fact that, yeah, we can definitely do more than one thing.
Mhm.
So, one of the things that I was really drawn to with you is your podcast called First Giving Honor to God,
Yeah.
right? Love the name. Love it, love it,
Yeah.
love it. And so, for those who don't know, First Giving Honor to God is a podcast for those who want to bring their visions to life and honor God through their work. It's hosted by Whitney, and you are 3 seasons in.
Yeah.
So first, go back and tell me how the podcast got started, and then I have some
Oh,
questions and all that good stuff.
well, the podcast was a God idea. I will be honest. I literally never saw myself as a podcaster. I had no interest in being a podcaster. I was like, that's for others. And I felt like I had to be selling something to have a podcast. And I was like, I don't have anything to sell. I just like to talk. And so it wasn't on my radar, but I go to this conference and I just felt like God started telling me like, hey, I want you to drop this podcast. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And so it took me like maybe 6 to 7 months to even get behind the idea of a podcast because I was just not feeling it. But I really started thinking, what is the story of people of faith that I'm not hearing? And I was like, I know that there are people who are working outside kind of the four walls of the church who are still honoring God in their work, who are professors, who are musicians and therapists and all sorts of things, who feel like the work they're doing is just as important as the worship leader on Sunday, as the pastor, as the deacon. And I was like, I want to talk to those people because I feel very called outside of the four walls. A lot of the work that I do is so outside of the Sunday morning service or Wednesday night Bible study. And so I just wanted to hear from those people. And it's been a good experience for me because I had a lot of fear around my calling being outside of the four walls. And I think it's funny, God sets you up. I feel like he set me up to hear all these other people who are doing it so that I can get out of my own way and really know like this is feasible and it's still honoring God. And so, I walk away from every episode and I'm just like, man, God is so good. And these people are just incredible. And I'm just lucky that I get to talk to them. So it's been a great experience, but I didn't want to do it. But I was being obedient. I was.
Understandable. I love what you mentioned about being outside of the four walls of the church. And initially, I don't know when, but I do recall there was a phase in my life where I felt like if it wasn't inside of the church, then maybe I wasn't called to it, right? And it wasn't until, gaining further wisdom, insights, things like that, then I realized that we can serve beyond the four walls. And so, is that what, when you refer to first giving honor to God, is that what kind of like what you talk about, like giving honor through serving, whether it's
Yeah.
in or out of the four walls?
Yeah, it is. It's that idea. I think it is. What is this really for? As an educator, some days it I can get lost in doing the task that it takes to be an educator. But when it really boils down to it and I have to sit with myself, and if I had a really hard day, it's like, what is this for? And at the end of the day, I want to honor God. I want to love his people the way he has told me to love them. I want them to see me as an example of his, goodness. And then I want him to be able to look at what I'm doing and say, she's doing it with integrity. She's doing it as my child. And so it really is kind of for me a recentering. And even when I talk to people and I interview them, they're like, if you hadn't pointed out to me, like, yeah, I'm a believer, but I didn't really ever put two and two together that what I'm doing really is to the glory of God. And so it's always just kind of a good reset for people to remember that the work you're doing is deeper than what you do. It's about who you're impacting, who you're serving, what people are getting out of it. So it's been just a beautiful reminder for me too, to not get caught in the task. The tasks are like the bare minimum. It's not really, it's the thing behind the thing that's important.
What would you say is, based on you interviewing guests so far, some of the most unique ways that individuals that you've come across are perhaps serving? Um,
Yeah.
what
So
would you say?
I interviewed, this is one of my friends, and it's so funny. You like know your friends, but you don't really know what they do for a living. You know where they work, but you're not really clued into what that means.
Yeah.
And one of my friends who was a career changer, she went from being like kind of a business person to going into clinical research. And I was like, I just want to talk to you about it. And I didn't really have any expectations about the conversation. But man, to hear her talk about how helping people get these, clinical trials for cancer studies, people
Mhm.
thinking that they had no more hope for their cancer, their doctor telling them you're on your last leg, there's nothing else we can do. And then she's working on this trial that's like, hey, this is a trial drug, we don't know if it's going to work, but join my clinical study, and I want to try to help you. And her personality is just, she's so sweet and loving, and I feel like she's the perfect person to be in that place, because she's going to pray for people and talk to people and encourage them. And I guess I just would have never thought that in a science arena, somewhere where a lot of people typically don't believe in God, that he would be using someone for his glory to help people in one of the hardest kind of transitions of their life. So it's just, that was probably the one that like got me in my feels the most, just to know like he strategically placed her there,
Yeah.
to serve those people. And the stories she has are just, man, I have no words for it, because it's just it's a God thing all day.
Mhm. So she is ideally, literally, the answer to someone's prayer.
Yes,
Is that
literally.
person who is asking God to help them, and God has given her like to do the work, to do the legwork. So that person is praying, having faith, and she is the person that's answering in a way. She's a
Yeah.
God, a resource of God. Um,
Hmm.
so that's interesting. That's really interesting. I think, with everyone feeling like, you have to leave your 9 to 5, or you have to be in business,
Hmm.
it's like, couldn't you also be doing what God wanted you to do, living out your purpose
Yeah.
through a regular 9 to 5? Like,
Yeah.
so much could vary. So I like that you bring that up. Something else that I noticed that you do on the podcast is the devotionals.
Yeah.
Um, how does that go? And is it like led by different people, or is it led by you?
So it is led by different people. I just kind of had in my mind that I know for me, one of the things that if I ever get tripped up in my faith walk, it
Mhm.
is in that kind of like private devotional time. And it's usually when God is giving me like a big ask, when he started telling me to start the podcast, when he started telling me to, start my company. I remember being very like, oh, I just feel like I need some resources, like somebody to talk to me and give me some, encouragement. And so I really just started praying, like, God, what can I do? You've asked me to start this podcast, but I know it's bigger than this. And so we came up with devotionals, and, first giving honor to God being one of those throwback phrases. I was like, let's call it Sunday school. And so the devotional series are under kind of an umbrella called Sunday School. And I have gathered different people to talk about different topics. So they do either like a 3 to 7 day devotional about, helping people like live in their purpose. There's one for parents who are trying to raise their children to, learn how to pray to God and have that relationship young. And then there's one that's just kind of like a reset for people who've gotten off task. And we change the devotionals every 3 months. There's like a new kind of cycle of devotionals that come out. And it's just been really cool to see people, I feel like, just have that kind of companion in your pocket
Mhm.
when you are trying to do the thing that God has called you to do, when you're trying to honor him through your work. I think it's been really cool to just give them another resource that's going to say, like, you can do this. I've done it. And here's some scriptures that are going to get you through. Here's like some word that you can stand on, more than just, you being like, I know God told me this, but he didn't empower me to do it. And it's like, no, he's definitely empowered you. Let me tell you how he's doing it.
Yeah. And those who feel like they've been called outside of the four walls,
Mhm.
um, I believe that sometimes there can be a struggle as far as in what does the culture want and what does God want.
Yes.
And I've experimented with this in the most weirdest way. And the weirdest way that I've experimented with it is through social media. So
Hmm.
I've done the posting at specific times per day, because expert says I have to post at 12 noon on Mondays.
Yeah.
And versus posting when God gives me something to share. And I've noticed every time I post, when God gives me something to share, those are the most engaging. Those are the most, likes, the conversations are
Yeah.
so organic. And so that leads me to think, for those who are called outside of the four walls, but you're sure that you are a believer, like, how do we go within that bridge, that middle ground, to
Hmm.
know that, we're gonna follow God, even though there's certain, I guess in the church we call it worldly
Yeah.
principles
Yeah.
that still has to be followed, kind of like the law of the land. That's how I call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I,
like, yeah.
yeah, I think it is like, this is when you ask for wisdom. I tell people all the time, when it comes down to business stuff, I'm like, I'm gonna follow, like, I'm gonna register my business, I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
business license. Like, you're gonna do the legal things, but the benefit of being a believer is your strategy is not on you. Like, it takes the pressure off. And once I realized that, I became less afraid to try things,
Hmm.
because if I try it and the Holy Spirit gives it to me, that wasn't me, like that. I'm like, I don't even know how I would have come up with this. God gave this to me. I'm rocking with him. And usually I don't even have to come back and defend it because it works. And so it just takes that pressure off of you trying to follow the trends and the strategies that people are giving you, that honestly are just created to keep us in a, like a wheel of going around in circles, and being worried. And I think that is the thing, this podcast taught me, is you can do business the way everybody else does it, and you may end up successful, but will you have your peace of mind? Will you be able to say you did it with integrity? And I'm like, I want to
Hmm.
do it the right way, that I believe in. And it has just been not it hasn't been a stressful thing. I'm like, I get to try things. I don't have to be on the clock. I don't want to be on the clock at my job and then come be on the clock with social media. I just don't have that in me. And so it's just been good to not have that pressure. And I think if we as believers would see the benefit in doing it with God versus trying to follow the algorithm and all of that, which you'll never catch it. There is blessing in it, and it's beautiful, and you get to enjoy what you're doing versus trying to beat the next person.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree with that. I found so much more peace in business when I follow God. And I've been through the seasons of not following God. And let me tell you, that is when I've been the most stressed. It's when I've had anxiety. It's when I can't sleep. And I realized, like, I had to get to a point of realizing, like, what am I doing? Like, what
Right.
am I doing? Like, who told me to go create a course? Am I doing it because they said I can make, like, who told me to do it this way? Like, this
Ooh,
is not,
you
I had
singing my song, girl.
yeah, I had to really question myself, and I found myself. I remember I went back and I deleted, well, I didn't delete it, but I took away all of my digital products, any courses, because I'm like, why am I doing this? It's not that they're bad,
Right.
but is it what God asked me to do, you know? And it wasn't. And I found where I have easily, well, not even knocked on doors, but like where I haven't necessarily tried or overextended myself, like no big proposal, and doors have opened. Like
Yeah.
doors that shouldn't even be open are opened.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how did you, Jay, like, you're not even posting on Instagram? Like, how did you just land that
Yeah.
that people are begging for? And it does have to do with following God's strategy and giving the honor to Him,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and realizing that you have to also sow into other individuals and other business owners as well too. um,
Yes.
because it all goes hand in hand, and that's how you lead different as a business
Mhm.
owner, right?
Yeah.
um, there was like, for example, like the other day I landed a really good opportunity and I was like, okay, God, I need to sow into somebody else's
Mm,
business. And sometimes I believe even situations like that, the worldly way could be like, let's do a collab and make it big, and
yeah.
let's put your name on it because you didn't let everybody know that you did
Yeah.
this, that. And where it was as simple as, no, just send a message to the person and here is this and keep it pushing.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, our standard is just different. It
Mm-hmm.
just is. And who knows? Like that person, like you were talking about earlier, like you could have literally been an answer to a prayer that they had prayed, or you just never know.
Yeah.
And so it's like I just want to be a vessel. I'm like, God, if you can get it to me, you're going to get it through me. This isn't my resource at the end of the day. I didn't Maybe I went to work for it, but it's not mine. It's not even mine to hold on to. And so I'm totally with you there. I declared at the beginning of this year, I said, this is going to be my most generous year. I'm going to give like I've never given before. And it is proven to be, I've gotten it back in kind. It hasn't been just in monetary value, but like just people showing up when I need them to show up, or calling me saying, hey, I was thinking about you. I got a word for you. I'm praying for you. You just never know when that generosity is going to come back. But even if it never comes back, you might be the answered prayer for somebody else. And so I love that you do that you will sow into another business. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like, I've been pushing myself this year to really step outside of the box and really just intentionally be nicer. And it's not that like, oh, I was mean, but it's
Yeah.
like, how could I continue to show Christ? How can I display him within
Mm-hmm.
me? So whether it is sewing into someone, or picking up a tab, or whether it is even, sending a text message or an
Yeah.
video to let this person know that, hey, hope you have a good day, or whatever it is. But just intentionally being that vessel and, giving honor to God, because that's really what it
Yeah.
is, right?
That's what it is.
Really what it is.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed, so like one of the things that a lot of, as you could say, believers, a lot of us have maybe been through, is that changing courses when God is redirecting you to something else. It's intense, but
Yeah.
what would you say are a sign, or are signs that individuals should be changing a course, is because God is really telling them to change the path?
Yeah. I think for me, a lot of times, peace is often an indicator for me of things. And I have not always been really good at noticing when, like, the favor has been lifted from a place or a situation, and where, like, the peace of God is no longer there. And it's like, you only know that through spending time with him, through like really kind of like understanding his ways. And I am like, I will tell people, I'm probably the worst person at giving this advice because it took me a long time to get it. But that's why you should trust me. But every single time when I felt like the peace leave a place, or I just like knew that it was ending, and I stayed longer than I was supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
it has been I mean, the craziest things will happen, like stuff that's just like, I couldn't have written a script this well if I wanted to. And so I often am doing like check-ins with myself almost weekly, like, is there still peace here? Like, even if it's comfortable, even if it's easy for me to get up and go, is there still peace here? Because I believe that the peace of God goes where he is. And when his presence has left the place, you will
Mm-hmm.
begin to notice his peace will no longer be there. And so for me, that is an indicator. And I'm proud of myself because I've gotten better at it. I'm not perfect. I always talk about my response time. The first time that I felt God's peace leave a place, it took me 2 years to leave. The next time it took me 6 months. And then the last time it took me 2 months. And so I'm like, my response time is getting better. I'm not perfect. I don't immediately go, okay, God, I'm going to go in here and not be and quit my job, or I'm going to transition. It's like, ooh, okay, I know what this means. God, give me like 6 weeks and I'm going to get it together. But I believe that the more that he puts me in those situations, the better I become. To like, even now I feel a pivot in a certain place and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And I feel my response time getting better. So I just tell people, look for the peace of God. It follows his presence, it follows his favor, it follows his provision. If there is no peace, that's when you got to begin to do some serious prayer and say, God, is this a place that you really want me to be?
Absolutely. There's a trending sound um, going around by Pastor Jerry Flowers, I believe.
Yeah, I love Pastor Jerry.
Yeah, about if it's costing you your mental health, basically. And
Period.
it is true. If it's costing you your mental health, um, then it's, like God is not the author of confusion. I had to walk away from an opportunity the other day, and it was a very good opportunity. And I had to walk away because it was just becoming chaotic. And I was just like, yeah, this is not it. This ain't it. This ain't it. I'm like, God, the opportunity is good. Yeah, you want to shine, Sidjae. You want to shine. But on whose watch are you shining?
Yeah.
I'll tell you to do this. And though it was a wonderful opportunity, I had to say no because the chaos, the mental health, it was just like, what? It was like, why is this coming with so much confusion and stress? I was like, this is not it. And that was also one of the things that I promised myself going into this year, that if it's causing me anxiety, then not where God wants me to be. That was going to be my sign to change direction for anything possible. If I felt anxious about it, uneasy, like I don't want to have to feel like I'm fighting for business opportunities, for partnerships, for collaborations, for anything like that. So I like that I like that we just discussed that. Perhaps somebody really needed to hear it. So it's a sign, y'all. This is your confirmation. If you've been asking God for clarity, we're telling you, if it's causing confusion, anxiety, your mental health, whatever it is, then go the other way, because it's not worth it.
Yeah. Shout out to you though for letting that opportunity go. Hey, I'm proud. I'm proud when people do that. Shout out to you.
And I feel better about it. Like, I feel so much better about it. Like, one day. I have so many stories to share, but one day I'm gonna share. But it was a good one. It was a good one. Even like with telling potential clients no, because sometimes even then too, client can also cost you.
Yes. All money ain't good money.
People can really cost that. So even that too, I've learned. I think I've mastered that part of like saying no to some folks when they come to work with me. And the other part, I guess, now is just figuring out other areas of life when you got to say no because of mental health or anything like that. Okay, so what is one piece of advice that you would give to anyone listening, watching, in regards to honoring God with their gifts?
Oh, I think first is, I think you have to see your gift as valuable. I think a lot of times, and I know for me, I always wanted gifts that I didn't have. I felt like it was, some people had it easier, or it was a gift that was more manageable, or people liked it more, or whatever. And I didn't value my own gift. And I think that's what took me so long to really lean into, how do I honor God with my gift, is I didn't see it as valuable. But literally every single one of us matters. I think that is why, the word talks about us being one body but many members, because every member matters. You might think that your writing is not important. You might think that you being a mathematical wizard is not, you can't honor God through that. It all matters. And so I think if you can see it as valuable, that is like half the battle. You seeing that it matters, and not only that it matters to people, but that it matters to God. I remember asking God, how is me writing a song valuable to you? How is me taking a photo valuable to you? Why do you care? And I want to tell you, he cares. Everything that he has gifted you to do, he cares about, or else he wouldn't have placed it within you. So I think if you can see it as valuable, the next thing is just to trust his timing, where he tells you to go, where he tells you to use it. It may look unusual, but because it's valuable, he knows the places it will be valued. And so I just think it's important for you to trust where he sends you, even if it doesn't look like where your mom and them think you need to go. His voice above every other voice.
Absolutely. Is God is so funny. I was literally pulling, I was trying to find that scripture.
Oh my
You
gosh.
but I was trying to find the scripture about, being the members in the body, and I ended up in somewhere else. So it's funny, like God is confirmation. God is
Man.
always so funny, because that's exactly what I was gonna say, is that, like, we're all valuable. And but what I ended up finding was Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God and to those who are called according to his purpose, meaning that your gifts are not small, they're not too big. If you're called to it, is what you're supposed to do, whether it's in the four walls, outside of the four walls, it would still be giving honor to God once you decide to follow through and do what God has called you to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that. Come on.
Spirit.
Word.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's so true.
Yeah.
Our gifts are so valuable, and we don't just have to serve inside of the four
Yeah.
walls. And it's so important. Like, that's also something that I really wish anyone listening to just remember, guys. You don't if you're serving outside of the four walls, it's okay. There's still
Yes.
purpose. There's still value in it. Everything is working together and
Everything.
contributing to God. You're giving honor to God. So
Mhm.
I appreciate that, Winnie. I really do. So well, actually, I was gonna say, where can they find you? But I will be sure to drop your social media links and
Thank
all that
you.
stuff in chat. You guys also be sure to check out Whitney on Honor to God, on Instagram, and also the podcast. I'll share all of those links below as well. And I think that's it for today's Priceless Convo.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. God bless this. I love Priceless Convos. Y'all, please listen to it. I'm just honored for you to have me here. So thanks again.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.